This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is that time, post Bassmaster Open, where the man, Bradley Hallman, joins me live in studio for a breakdown of what is the most recent Open on the schedule. And if you listened to yesterday's show, probably one of the most talked about Opens in recent history, with Keith Poche getting the job done with a 3-day total weight of 37.12, bettering Greg Hackney by a couple of pounds there. Bradley, thanks for taking the time to drive down to Moore, Oklahoma, USA, and talk bass fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here, dude, in studio. Good deal.
We are right in the middle of a rather arduous schedule. Kind of 4 Opens. It's a week on, week off, week on, week off, week on, week off, week on to close things out. Would you rather it just be back to back to back to back, or do you like the little bit of time off in between? It almost seems more chaotic to be able to come back for 4 or 5 days and try to get your life together and then go back on the road again for another week and a half. It's been kind of a grinder for the last month, Brad.
Yeah. I don't know which I prefer. I guess I personally prefer some time off, that one a month, or, somewhere in that time frame that we were at. We had a lot of time off, though, this year, earlier in the year where we
there's about a month and a half there where we didn't have anything before Oneida.
Gaps, yeah. But some of this stuff, as far as we're traveling, I wouldn't mind hitting them in back-to-backs either, get them over with.
I know you've done a little bit of talking about the schedule for next year. Hopefully you don't have to pay attention to that schedule. We'll get into that. You're in a very good position overall in the points right now. There's several double qualifiers ahead of you for the Bassmaster Opens. Overall, they take the top 3 in the points, and then they work down double qualifiers from the Central, the Northerns, and the Southerns. Currently, there's one of those. Do you know how they're going to do the Elite? If there's a guy like Kenta ahead of you on the Elite Series, does that go down the overall, or does that go to an Elite Series guy?
I believe it goes down the overall. I've talked to a couple people about it, but not people that have really studied the rule. But I believe that goes down the open spot. That
okay.
Does not go back to
so you are alive in 2 divisions. The Central Division, you finished 14th at Ross Barnett to kick the season off in the Central Division, and then came back in an absolute grinder of a derby on the Red River and finished 26th, which is what we will dive into today. So taking that 50-point wiggle room that seems to be the magic number in each open division, you got your work cut out for you, but you're alive in the Centrals and then very alive in the overall, which going into the final 2 tournaments of the year, not much more you could ask for.
No, I've got 2 of them playing. It seems like the last 2 years I've had a chance going into the last one. All 3 years I've been doing this, but it's been really close. And I think that this year's probably I've got a little more wiggle room than I have in the years past.
Our house that we room with is Andrew Upshaw, myself, John Sokup, and you. And I did not know. You're handling it pretty much like I thought you would. Whatever. Go out, take care of business. It'll handle it, and I'll let people tell me where I am. I did not realize how, analytical and points watching Sokup is. Like, that dude is literally refreshing the Angler of the Year standings from, like, if he weighs in at 315, he starts as soon as the weigh-in's over. And I did not realize he was like that.
Yeah, we are total opposites in that aspect. Because, to me, it's just, I honestly, like the points you're talking about right now and the overall, I didn't understand until you were explaining to me yesterday. I had not looked that close. I didn't look at double qualifiers. I don't, because that's not going to matter until it's all over. And there's still a lot of fishing. And it only takes one day, one bad day, and you are done.
Mm-hmm. See, Cooper has a chance because he's 7th in the Southerns, and we're headed to the final. This is a Southern, right?
Yes.
On Hartwell this week.
It'll be the last
next
Southern.
week. So Cooper is 7th in the Southern division. So there, and he's ahead of you in the points. David Gaston is leading the Central division, and he's ahead of you in the points on that. So, and then, like I said, you are currently 7th with Poche, who's already double qualified. Sokup, who has an outside chance of double qualifying. Gaston, who has a good chance of double qualifying. Kenta, who is an Elite Series angler. And then Cooper, who has a chance of double qualifying. Then Cole Sands, and then you.
We definitely need to get that answer about the Elite Series qualification from Hank, because if Kenta was to finish inside that, and they could very easily say
it goes down to the Elite Series.
It goes down to the Elite Series, then I'm going to have to tie Kenta up at the boat ramp and not let him fish at Rayburn.
Well, I think the next guy on the Elite Series list would be, is it Gleason?
Believe it, it's either Gleason or Gary Klaus.
One of those two.
One of those two.
So if you tie Kenta up, they're going to untie him. because it works both ways. I always feel bad for that guy.
We need an answer. We need some.
In the past years, remember, there's always been those anglers who it's like, hey, if you fish this, so and so gets in. If you don't fish this, another guy gets in. And it's I've always wondered what must be going through the head of the guy who's like, I just want to fish the damn tournament. Like I wasn't planning on determining other people's fate on this. I just want to go out and catch 15 bass.
I know stories of like one year Brian Schmidt won an Open on Champlain, and he had just jackpotted it. Like just got in and jackpotted it. And by him winning that, it saved up a spot to open up on the Elite Series to move down one more click for the Bassmaster Classic, which it ended up being Ish Monroe. It got Ish in. Yeah. And so Ish sent this really nice care package to Schmidt, and at the time they didn't know each other, but I thought that was pretty
I
funny.
remember every year there's always that guy in the Elite Series who's hoping that a guy who didn't fish all the divisions or isn't qualified or is already double qualified wins the Open. And one year it went down like 2 or 3, like the last 2 or 3 guys in a row. I think Scott was in that position at one point too.
Yeah.
Last year, the year before, where he needed a guy to win, and he actually won.
Yeah.
So, anyway, before we get into it, we'll just talk about the current goings-ons. You know, I mentioned Keith Poche won at a very spirited BTL yesterday.
Yeah.
Mr. Poche jumping on with the trophy. Big appreciation to Keith for taking time out of his day to do that. You know how it is after a major win, how your time is pulled in a bunch of different directions. So for him to sit down for over an hour at a family member's house and jump on, I greatly appreciate it. But it seems like every couple of years, sometimes every year, sometimes it goes a couple of years, there's a win that is accompanied with an essay controversy.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a cut and dry. This guy went out. Here's exactly how he did it. He did it. We watched him. He kicked. But, dude, there was more. This is the most, and I put that in quotations, controversial tournament that I've ever fished at an Open or Toyota Series level. Mm-hmm. And it was, just go back and listen to the show yesterday if you haven't heard it. But, he was accessing a hard-to-reach area. There were rumors of how he was getting in there. He had a video out of how he was getting in there saying, look, I ain't using ropes. I ain't using it. I'm pushing in there. I'm getting in there. Look, I'm in there now. He passed the polygraph test from Bass that he was more than willing to take about what happened during official practice, and that he shows up on the final day. There's rocks in his area. Guys without him asking move rocks. He posts about it, which he got clearance from Bass to do. He's got, all sorts of crazy stuff on, but there's a bunch of guys that were just like not thrilled with how it went down. Why do you think that was, Brad?
It's just, it starts with rules and regulations and everything, but he's right. I listened to the conversation that you had with him yesterday, and it's the game that he wants to play. That's how he likes to play it. And it starts with the manufacturing of that little small boat. That thing is not much wider than a canoe. It's built to go in places that nobody else can get, and that's the game he's playing. And he's been running it for a long time now. He's fished all 3 years in the opens that I've fished this last 3 years, and Bass hasn't changed the rules. I know there's been complaints about his boat to Bass staff from other people before. It meets all the requirements and regulations. It was manufactured and built to be and hit those marks, so this didn't just all start at the Red River. Like, he's been planning this for a long time. It's what he does.
Yeah.
Louisiana is always where this stuff comes up, it seems like.
Sabine River.
Over and over.
Delta,
we were talking at the Red about the Rojas.
Yep.
You practiced in a place.
Yeah, we'll get into that later when we go over our tournament practice and strategy.
I think that, there's guys that are upset because it's shady. It's not something that you're it's gaining an advantage by staring at the rules to try to find, instead of gaining an advantage of, okay, how can I catch fish better? How can I figure this out? How can I figure that out? It's more of a, well, let me try to get an advantage this way. Let me study the rules as hard as I can and find loopholes. And what are the loopholes that will give me the best advantage? And then when that works, and he's right, when it doesn't work and he's out there at Oneida getting his brains beat in by 4-foot waves, nobody cares. But when it works for him is when people are upset.
Would you like to see more standardization in equipment? I talked about this a little bit yesterday. The drivers, 460 cc's. The balls have to be the same. The shaft length is the same.
My feeling is, and of course, I have a relationship with Phoenix Boats, but my feeling is, for all the years at classics and shows that I've worked, those companies pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, which equal millions of dollars, to Bassmaster to sit on their showroom floors during the Bassmaster Classic. Now, if, they have no interest in those companies' money and sponsorship, then they should start a small boat field and have a small boat tournament where everybody's got, winches and ropes and chainsaws and shovels, and we can all go dig in anything we want to.
That I suggested they start a extreme trail.
Yeah, that would be some wonderful television.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But you're talking about standard.
I'm just talking about a bass tournament, a bass boat tournament, And listen, I have no issue at all with, the 20-foot aluminum, the big aluminum boats, the boats that Jason and John run. Mm-hmm. I have no issue with those whatsoever. Zero.
Listen, and everyone's saying 100K boat, people are salty. Like, that boat he's running is not a cheap boat.
No.
Also, you can't go out and get that boat for 10 grand.
He's got a 21-foot fiberglass boat sitting at the house too. It's not like he's not he's been sponsored by Triton for a long, long time. I'm guessing he's still with Triton. Yeah, but that boat's for that advantage. I just, I think there could some standardization of that. A 30-day off limits period, which is what they're going to next year, would have solved a lot of this issue as well. It takes away from some of the things that
listen. I see Gregory there, 100K boat. You can fish the Open. You don't have to have a 2022 boat. You don't have to have 100K. There's plenty of guys there with 4 to 10-year-old boats that aren't $100,000.
Yeah, that's not what it is. But anyway, I have, it's always Louisiana. I don't have an issue with it. Congrats to him.
Here's my question. So they had the OT rule, right? We're talking about Douglas there with the jet drive.
Jet drives, yeah.
Tunnel hulls, and jet drives. Mm-hmm. And they made that illegal in Bass. Right. You can't do it because you gain a significant advantage over the rest of you. You could run up past the rocks and stuff. But what Keith basically has is a boat that can do the same thing as a tunnel hull or a jet drive.
Well, it's the same thing. He's built and designed a boat, and had it developed to gain the advantage of that's very much. I mean, his low water pickup is mounted to the bottom of the hull of the boat. It's not even on the motor, so you can run that prop at a much higher level because you're not having to pick up water through that lower unit. Look, I know. I'm surprised Clay's not on here. I get it. So everybody, I mean, if y'all want to, let's run. Hell, let's have kayaks in the damn tournament too. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
I think Mercer and I might have done a cull coming out on whether or not a kayak angler should be in the Classic.
Well,
I get it. It's interesting.
It's just, you're just not playing on the same field. You're not playing on the same field. That's why I think some guys have issues with it.
A lot of veteran guys.
A lot of veteran guys have issues with it.
Yeah, they've been around a while.
Huh.
That have been there and done that and seen it and been there through a lot of rule changes and innovations. I mean,
I'll be honest. I haven't been on social media. I haven't looked.
Yeah.
I didn't read the responses.
I just want to get your quick take on it.
I just kind of went back to the boat because I've looked at the boat many times over the last 3 years and thought that boat should not be allowed. But that's just my thought on it.
And they have tried to do some standardization. I know the Bass has said, hey, you have to pick the vessel that you're running in, and there's someone saying about, well, what if someone fished out of a deep V? And yeah, I mean, I think that would give them a distinct advantage on Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie.
Yeah, and it's very much like what Keith said yesterday. It's always positional where it does
dance with the one that brung you.
Well, but I mean, it has advantages and disadvantages, and there's only certain times that it falls in the wheelhouse.
But listen, here's what, and then we'll put this to bed.
Okay.
Here's what I was thinking of last night, and I hadn't brought this up, and this I think is a really good point. So Pochet's running this. It's a legal boat. Let's say he had a 150 on it or whatever it is.
Right.
You have fished at the Elite Series level and at the FLW Tour level and one, you've been around the best guys. These guys at this level will do whatever they think they need to do to have the best chance of legally winning a tournament.
Correct.
Regardless of what it takes. There is a big group of them. Money, no money, sponsors. This is the cream of the crop. These are the guys. So here's what I was thinking. If that is a legal boat and you can run it, why are there not more of the top, very best anglers in the world who have every resource and can have that boat? Why are they sticking with the 20-foot fiberglass with the 250? Why? Because for them, that gives them the best chance to win. It is the best performing boat under all conditions. And if it was the end-all, be-all, look at where I can do and what I can go with it, and if it was the best overall vessel for a touring pro to put money in their pockets and provide for their family, then hell, 80% of the guys would be running one because they do whatever it takes. It is a very situational boat. Very situational. And I think we see Keith running away with the points this year because look at where the schedule's been.
I'll be honest. I've asked myself that question when I've looked at that boat of his and thought, why is it allowed? I have thought, why are you doing these opens and you don't own one of those boats? I mean, dude, I get one of them boats with a phone call. Done.
Right.
Mine. Own it. Put it in the garage.
But I'm talking about the guys who would have
and
to
just
make
take
that
it to
decision
places like
at the
that.
beginning of
But
the year.
You have to make the decision that he makes that you're all in on that deal when you go. And then so it's chainsaws and shovels and, winches and all that before official practice starts, That way you can do it that way. And then, but then you got a lot of work ahead of you, which is no different than going down there and working trying to find fish. It's the same. It's hot as hell. Mm-hmm. A guy could do that. And believe me, that same question you've asked, I've asked myself, why haven't you just done it?
But I'm saying, what the guys on tour, why haven't they done it? Because
so it's a different situation. So let me explain this, okay? Because there is some reason to this. One thing that makes there's multiple things that make that a bigger advantage in the open setting. One is field size.
Yes,
225 boats. Two is practice setting where there's no off limits and you can practice unlimited amounts of time. So the fish in the body of water takes a bigger pounding than they do in the Elite Series because those guys have a 30-day off limits with a 2.5 day of practice. The third thing that makes that thing totally different is the body of waters in which Bass generally being the key word here, generally chooses to put on their tournaments. The Elite Series tends to go to premier bodies of water in the country. The Opens tend to go to the less premier bodies of water in the country, a.k.a. the Red River. And what happens there is in the premier bodies of water, in the best ones, the Santee Coopers, the Sam Rayburn's, the Grand Lakes, the Lake Hartwells, the biggest fish in the pond live in the damn pond.
Yeah.
They live in the pond. Now, you can go run up creeks, you can go run up rivers, and you can catch fish, yes. But you're going to get smoked by the ones that live on the lake. Now, that's generally speaking. And so if you look and add all those together, that boat, quite honestly, is best in the open format than it is.
Tough fisheries.
Tough fisheries, grinds, huge fields, lots of pressure. That's where
3-day tournaments, not 4-day. You only have to find 15 of them.
Yep. The only drawback that would be better for that little boat scenario with the elites is no co-anglers. So you don't have somebody else in the back of the boat catching your fish.
Oh, yeah, catching
because you're trying to manage fish in these little small areas.
Fish. I got you.
That's the only drawback.
Right. I didn't want to harp on that. I wanted to get your opinion.
Did Keith draw a co-angler both days?
I don't know.
That would have been a good question.
I don't know. He didn't have one on the final day, but I think he had a marshal.
I know, but there was a lot of guys that didn't have co-anglers.
Yeah, I wonder how his co-anglers did.
That's what I'm wondering. If he had one day that he didn't have a co-angler, that would have been a big advantage.
I didn't ask that.
Big advantage.
It's a good discussion topic.
Yeah.
It's great tournament if you happen to have a podcast that talks about bass fishing.
Yeah, a little controversy. But no, man, I mean, it's always been Louisiana, whether it's gates.
No, I've noticed that.
It's
gate signs.
Yep. Always in Louisiana.
I mean, how many times I remember multiple guys, guys that get pro day, he's fishing out of a illegal pond, or a guy shows up and, like I said, there's a gate there, or there's a sign that says no trespassing all of a sudden after day 3, or there's guys getting run off, or Gary Klein getting shot at, or who. I mean, it's always Louisiana. Something. Remember, they had a deal down at the Sabine River where they said, screw it, y'all can only fish half of the river, the Texas side of the river. You can't even go on the Louisiana side of the river.
Because it was just so complicated, they couldn't keep it straight of what was fishable and what wasn't.
It's there, and then it's at New York with the man-made canals and marinas and what's natural and not natural. Those are the two, in my opinion, the two toughest states to fish when you go to, because to me, and listen, you can do the homework and you can do it, but anytime you want to go explore, you're like, this looks interesting. Am I allowed to go in here? Well, in Oklahoma or the other states, you're like, yeah, navigable water. Hell yeah, I can go in here, even if it says it didn't. Yeah. Like at the James River in Virginia, there's a thing that said, private, unless you're a slip, do not come in, blah, blah, blah. Call up the tournament director. He's like, nope, that's public. You can go in. That's just them putting that sign up. So then I go in. Guy in the marina comes out. You catching him? He was the guy who managed the marina and stuff. He was fine with it because he knew that was just a sign and he couldn't enforce it.
Wow. Yeah. You're right. There's always guys, and everybody's always looking for an advantage.
Will there be rules implemented, do you feel like, in the Opens based off of this event?
Let's say this. Based off of Bass's pre-existing history over the last 3 or 4 years, my answer would be no.
Listen, I need to preface this. So, yes, the launch, Kevin said, easy on Louisiana guys. It is not the anglers in Louisiana. It is the landowner laws in Louisiana, and a small percentage of those that then take advantage of it as far as don't want people in or not. I will say this about the Red River Open. Day 1 launch was an absolute cluster. Hank knew it. It just got away from him. The volunteers that worked the launch ramp and the weigh-in procedures and made things run smoothly coming in on day 1 and on day 2. Dude, they're some of the nicest folks that I've ever been around in an Open, as far as, I would say, even rivaling Smith Lake, which was an absolute joy to fish there. But as far as the people saying, good morning, how are you doing? The guys helping Hank weigh the fish on stage, the guys at the tank, the guys off, top notch as far as friendly local hosts.
Louisiana, to me, I've traveled all over the country.
I love Louisiana.
Louisiana is one of my favorite places to go, and it is because of the people and the food and the fishing.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I know I didn't want to make the whole show about this. We're 24 minutes in, but I thought it was a good discussion.
Yeah.
You have principle. Like you've been there and seen a lot of stuff. All right, let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll get into the actual fishing of it. We'll get into how you found your spots, how you got into your spots. No, I'm just kidding on that. And what you did to grind out a top 30 finish and keep your Elite Series dreams alive. BTL on a Tuesday with the man, Bradley Hallman, in studio. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS 9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart. our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and CMAP reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
All right, welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. Bradley Hallman in studio. Bassmaster Open breakdown from the Red River, and let's get into your derby, Brad. I remember we had you on because we had a tournament on the Chesapeake Bay. You actually came on the show from your VRBO cabin at Grand Lake because the family all had the flu.
Yeah.
And then you went straight down to the Red River. So by the time the Derby started, you weren't planning on this, but you had, 6-7 days of practice in before Thursday's competition kicked off, which was not the original plan, just how it ended up working out.
Yeah, I decided to go ahead and go on down there. I mean, that's what we're competing against. Like Dustin said, if you're not winning, work harder. So a lot of the guys that are beating us in points are just traveling from pond to pond to pond, and they're probably at Hartwell right now, Matt. We're falling behind as we speak.
No, they are at Hartwell. I know they are.
They're working.
I've seen the
working
Instagram
harder.
posts, the Facebook posts.
Yeah, so I went ahead and went down, and it was because the family was sick. My wife was like, dude, do not come home. I'm serious. She said, you're going to be home for 3 days. You're going to get sick. And then she said, this stuff lasts. So, like, the kids had it for, I don't know, it went through my house for like a week and a half, 8 or 9 days. And she said it was bad. She's like, you do not want this. So I went on down to the Red, got me a cabin on the right on the river there at Red River South Marina.
Yeah,
you know the ones that were all
cabins.
going to be leased up because if you don't call the day the schedule comes out, those cabins
They were open?
I thought, this is a few days early. there's a possibility. So I called. Old girl said, come on down. I'll leave the light on for you with the key in the door.
Really? Right there?
Yeah, it was
and
great.
that's like, I mean, one of the main, it's like the ramp that everyone used.
Yeah, it was great. So met some great people down there. Just a phenomenal week. Was able to take off Saturday just to watch college football, which was good. That was the only day I took off, though. I practiced every other day, including even Wednesday, the half day, which I had full intention of taking off. But I managed to tear my live scope completely off of my trolling motor right before the end of practice. Was going to be my last day on a stump. So
you had to go back out and make sure.
I couldn't. All new electronics, new update, and I was like, I probably better get out on the water tomorrow just to make sure everything's okay, because I didn't want to start tournament day and be like, none of my stuff's working.
Right. So what'd you find? What was the game plan going in?
Game plan going in was really a lot like yours. I really wanted to spend some time, and it allowed me to do it with nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
I basically spent 2 days right there in that takeoff cut.
Right. Did you know what was off limits in there from the very beginning?
Yes. I was concerned about how, because, like everybody's talked about, that place has changed so much.
What's the name of it there? Something Pond?
Yeah, Cooter's Pond.
Okay, yeah.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Something like that.
Yeah. It was made famous back in the day.
It was.
It used to actually have like
a rock jetty all the way down.
There was a little opening in it.
Opening.
Rojas was leading a tournament. He was outside. I guess he was casting inside,
Something
or he
wrong.
wasn't treated. There was
Right.
something that went down there where he got protested.
Somehow he was casting past.
It was right after he'd gotten the heavyweight championship and was winning and was like the number one guy on tour right then, and it was a massive controversy. Oh, shocking! Massive controversy on the Red River.
So anyway, that levee used to be there, and I had a really good idea of how that levee used to lay, and I was amazed that you couldn't even see a levee. And I actually called Castledine. I was like, how are they going to enforce the brick wall rule, right? So you have to treat it like a brick wall, because when you make a cast, because it's such a long distance between, like, how can you tell if your crankbait goes just a little past, or, it's going to be hard.
It's just like a red line that goes, you have no idea. It was like 50 yards. It was
the hill's still there. The levee, I guess you call it a levee. The siltation of the rise.
But
is
if
still
you've
there.
never seen it or weren't
I
looking
understand.
for it, you never even knew there was a dang levee there.
I agree. So anyway, yes, I think the first time I fished that place was in 2000.
Did you catch him in there
2001?
the first couple days?
Are you hearing 2000 or 2001?
Yeah,
was
that's
first with the
a
Red
long
River.
time. That's why I asked you about
Dude,
the
like
Red
it
River
opened
in
in
the first
99.
segment.
Like, it looks so different. Anyway, I spent 2 days in there, and I spent long enough that I was like, this place is not very good. Like, you could catch 5 out of there, but you had to work. It was not easy, and I was surprised how hard it was in there, to be quite honest with you. I knew the whole river was going to be tough, but that place, I thought maybe you could find a couple little jewels in there, but did not. And then I just started moseying on down the river. And after a couple of days, after a day or so on 5, I'd pretty much made my mind up that there was enough going on 5 that I wasn't going to leave 5. So I never looked at 4 or 3.
Really?
Never looked at them.
Wow.
And that was not my plan going in. I was really open-minded to go do anything. But there was some good-looking backwater on 5, different places, and there was different ways to get bit, multiple different patterns going on. Whether it was, out on the main river or in the backwater, you could get bit cranking. You could get on the rocks out on the main lake or on the river. And then obviously flipping and frogging and spinner baiting worked as well, and swim jigging in the backwaters. So, I saw enough that I felt like I could stay on 5 and just try to maximize my time, especially with where I was with the points, right? So you're always talking about, have I been thinking about that more than usual? And yes, I was thinking, anytime you go through a lock, and listen, the lock masters at the Red River, my experience historically is they have been some of the best that we have ever worked with as far as fishermen. They're very, very good about lock times and getting us through. And I've even seen them make barges wait in years past because they had made us promises, and the barge guys wait, for hours so that he can get all the anglers through. And that was on pool 4. I've seen it up and down that river. So those guys are always great. And it still is a high risk anytime you go. And anytime you lock, you take that chance. And I wasn't willing to do it. So I decided to stay on 5. It was an easy choice.
And knew that the boat traffic would be insane?
Knew the boat traffic would be insane.
What was the difference 4 or 5 days out in some of those areas as opposed to
oh my gosh,
the actual, as far as bite wise and stuff? Like when you
the pressure really didn't start adding up on that place until about Monday. Monday I felt it. Before Monday, you didn't really feel it. And the fish were, they hadn't been messed with down there in a long time. And you could tell that they hadn't had any tournaments there. That was one big difference from even years ago when it was really good, or a lot better than it is now. Healthier, let's just say that. It was a lot healthier then. There was a lot more, fish populations were larger. It still was tougher fishing back then because they had so many multiple tournaments over and over and over, which I think is a lot of why that takeoff area wasn't as good. It was because I don't think they've had very many tournaments.
But 4 or 5 days out, you could go in an area and it was decent fishing.
I wouldn't call it decent. I mean, I still had days that I only had 2 or 3 bites, but I definitely had days that I had 6, 7, 8 bites. Yeah, and those were good days of practice. I never had any practice days like some of the guys that I talked to in our house that were having like 18, 19 bites a day. I never had a day like that, ever.
That wasn't me, by the way. Narrow it down, folks.
Narrow it down. We got Big John in the house. That guy just jumps on them, dude.
Yeah, he's a fishy guy. How did you figure out where you wanted to be when then? Because the Red River is not a place where you can fish 20 spots in a day.
So I had a few bites in, I'm trying to think of the name of everything. I don't mind talking about it. Beehive, I believe is what they call it.
Okay.
And there used to be beehives up there on the bank years ago, and that's why it was called Beehive. Beehive is very easy to access. It's just down from Takeoff. And the fact that it was so easy and so close, and I got some really good bites in there. I didn't get very many, but they felt like some of my better fish. I thought, man, this thing could get overlooked just because of the simplicity of how easy and dull it kind of looks inside, and it just looks boring. And I started, and I was correct about one thing. It was definitely not an acquired taste by most anglers. There was only 3 or 4 of us in there to start the morning in that giant backwater. Day one.
So you were like, heck yeah.
Well, so here's the deal. Because this place was fishing grouped up clusters of fish. So when you got a bite, you could get another bite in that area. It was very Florida-like,
Mm-hmm.
And
they weren't spread out.
So when it's Florida-like and you're by yourself, it is either really, really, really good, and there's probably only a 10% chance of that, or you've missed it, and there's a reason no one else is there. So I'm hoping for the 10%, and I spent about an hour and a half in there in the morning and realized it wasn't the 10%. They bit better later in the day, but I wasn't willing to wait. And quite honestly, I never got back in there. I wish I could have. I'd like to have gone back day 2 and played that game late in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. If the retreads had been in an off-limits area where they were inaccessible, I definitely would have done that and would like to have seen what happened, because it did not get the pressure of the area that I ended up going to later in the day.
Interesting. So you leave there. Did you catch anything in the first?
I caught one back there. Okay. I'd shooken one off flipping a mat, hyacinth mat, and the exact same flip. I got a bite, and it was a keeper.
That's awesome. All right. So mid-morning then, you bounce out of there?
Mid-morning, I bounce out of there, and I'm headed down to the community hole that I knew that my roommate Upshaw was starting in. I didn't know exactly where he was. We had talked a little bit about kind of where we were and where we'd been bit. I knew he was in that general vicinity in that back hole with me. We didn't really know left or right exactly where the waypoint, because that was a giant area of grass back there. But anyway, I get back there, and he's still there at like 11 o'clock. Now, before I got there, I stopped and caught some on the way in too. I had a couple other little deals going in there, one on some wood, and then I had another hyacinth flipping deal. And my coingler got a bite on a frog, and then I picked up my frog and caught one, about pretty good one, probably a 2.5 pounder.
Giant.
And Then I came on back to the back, and Andrew was still there, and he had 4. You were back there. You had 4.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
And I had those 2.
And my co-angler had 3 for 8.
Yeah. And I decided that, I knew that this was the best population of fish that I'd found, but I also knew that it was the most popular, and I knew that you guys had been back there for a long time. So I just kind of got back in the back corner where I really felt comfortable by myself. I kind of got back in there, I think, a little further than what a lot of the guys had gotten in, and was able to catch some good quality fish. I think I caught, 2 back there. So I had 4. No, I caught 3 because I caught a 12-incher back there too that was just barely a keeper. So I filled my limit back there.
Which was huge. You knew that you'd be in the top 50.
Yeah, but I was very concerned about that 5th keeper. I mean, it was a 12-inch line burner. And it touched.
Yeah.
But I know from experience that my Phoenix board in my boat is not the same board that Bass uses. And it has caused me a problem before 2 years ago at Rayburn. So
that guy doesn't bump anymore.
That guy doesn't bump anymore, but the board is still the same, and the board is different. And I'm concerned about that board. So I'm concerned about this fish. And actually, my conger, it was his very first tournament ever. And somebody had bought him in as a Christmas gift.
Ah.
Yeah, so he was very excited. And he was telling me, I was like, man, I got to get rid of that fish. I got to catch one more. He says, they'll probably come up schooling for you. Yeah, right. On the red, I swear to God.
What?
I swear to God.
No way.
I go back up to where I'd caught the fish coming in earlier in the morning, and I'm up there on the bank with my frog. And I even said, yeah, I need one to come up schooling on my frog. And I'm throwing the frog, and I'm twitching. And I hear something behind the boat, a splash. And I'll turn around, and he's already turned around and looked too. And it's out there a little ways in the middle of the ditch. And you see the rings of the water. And I said, what was that? And he said, I think they were bass schooling. And I was like, did you see them? And he goes, yeah. I said, were they big or little? He said, they were little. And as soon as he said little, because I'm thinking, big gar, all the trash fish that are out there surfing all the time. As soon as he said little, I was like, maybe it is a bass. I turned trolling motor on high, put the frog down, reach down, grab my swim jig, and get close enough to where I can make a Hail Mary cast, and I make it out there, and I don't get 4 cranks on that jig, and tink. And I'm like, yes. Pound and a halfer.
Are you kidding me?
No.
You caught one schooling in a backwater on the Red River.
Right where everyone was idling. Where everyone was idling through.
Wow.
Yeah. It was incredible.
And that called out your 12.
I was so excited. Yeah.
And that was your 10 pounds.
So then I knew I was over 10 pounds because I've been weighing them, and I knew I was at 9 something. So, yeah, I knew that would give me 10, or I thought it would.
So then you went into day 2, but you knew but here, this is where things get interesting. So you knew that spot had been demolished by 10 anglers over the course of the day.
Yeah.
You knew your starting spot where you'd started the day before hadn't played out, but you also knew that retreads would play. But did you know that's a sketchy game too, because you don't really know where they dumped them, or if they're going to bite, or what happened.
Right.
So then, and you also knew very easy to zero, but another 10 pounds, you're in the top 10 and you're on your way.
Yeah, so day 1, I made some mistakes and decisions starting, and day 2, I continued to make mistakes. I really thought I probably needed to stay close to takeoff and try that retread deal and see if I could find them, because they generally bite really well on a place that has been devastated the day before. But I'm sitting in an area where there are multiple guys that are, if they're not in the top 10, they've got damn near top 10 weight. We're talking ounces here. So with inside the top 20, I've seen over half of them. And I was boat 130 something the first day. And so the next day I'm in, I'm down below 100. I'm in like boat 70 something or something like that. And I'm like, well, it's a decent boat number. I know it's hard to believe that boat 78 is a good boat number, but it is in the opens. And so I'm like, I'm going straight there. I'm going to put my head down. And I had some backup ideas that I thought maybe I could flip some of those fish out. And so I'd rigged some rods up the night before on some backup patterns in there, and really got in there, and it was dead like we thought. And I do this a lot with coinglers that are willing. I kind of use them like a bird dog to find the quail, you know. He was open for any suggestions. I said, dude, tie on a little baby brush hog with about a 1/4 ounce weight and just start flipping the holes, the little holes that are all around the boat, you know. And I'm just sitting still. We're going real slow. And he's like, all right, man. So he ties it on and he starts flipping, and he hadn't been doing it 5-10 minutes. And he catches one, like a 2.5, 2 3/4 pounder. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So like I reach down, I grab mine. I've already got it rigged up. I start flipping. I hadn't flipped maybe 10 minutes, and I catch one, 2.5 pounder. Good one. Giant. And I'm like, this is going to be okay. I'm going to be able to do this. And I flipped for another 2 hours and never had another bite. You're back there. You don't have a bite. AJ's back there, who blasted him the first day with 12 pounds. He hasn't caught one. Andrew's back there. Andrew had 2, didn't he?
Yeah, he caught 2. I watched him catch them both. But not giants. Decent ones, 2-pounders.
Yeah. They're just not biting.
Water looks different.
The water looks more dirty from us stirring it up, and we've plowed through it. And so then I start, well, I've got some other stuff in there. So then I go try my wood stuff, and I go try the place where, you know, I caught them on a frog in schooling the day before. And so I go try different areas. I start flipping some mats. I thought maybe flipping the hyacinth in there. I was just trying everything I could, but it just wouldn't come together. And here's the part where I really, really made a mistake. I'd worked myself back out. This place is very hard to get into, and it takes a long time of idling. Real stumpy. Time killer. And I've got a short day today, so like I need to catch some. And I've only got one in the boat, and I'm towards the mouth of it, and I have to make a decision. Are you going to leave here and go back up the river, or are you going to go back and try one more time where that group of fish was? And I'm just torn, and I can't make up my mind. And I go back. I'm like, I'm going back. So I idle all the way back in there, and it takes probably 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I drop my trolling motor, and I never even make a cast. I look around, and it reminded me of Okeechobee, the grass reed heads that I'd won that tour event out of, what it looked like on day 4 after the hurricane winds, and we'd all fished through them. And I just remember thinking back to when I'd found those fish, how it looked and what the ecosystem and the environment was like compared to what it was like at the end. That's exactly how that backwater looked. Exactly. It looked nothing like when I found that place in practice. Nothing. The ecosystem was totally different. The perch weren't popping. The water wasn't clear. You know, the grass wasn't just completely torn to a million pieces, floating everywhere, debris and just trash. And I was like, I'm out of here. This was stupid for me to idle back here. So now I got to idle all the way back out of this thing. But at least my mind was made of win or lose, get the hell out of here.
And you've got one fish at this point.
And I've got one fish.
Good one, though.
Yes, good one. 2.5 pounder.
2.5 pounder.
So I make the run, go all the way back up to the river, top of the river, and get out there. There's 25 boats out there.
It was a circus.
It was a circus. They're all looking for retreads. I fish around, talk to Andrew. Andrew had actually left when I wished I would have left. He left 2.5 hours before me, maybe even 3. And I still got time, though, man. It's like 1 o'clock. I've got time and to catch some fish. Andrew hasn't caught a bass, so that's concerning. So I bounce to the other side because there's nobody on the other side of the river. So I just want out of the 25 boats. So I go to the other side of the river, flip a little bit of some of that grass, and then I come to a rock section. I pick up a crankbait, a square bill, catch one, a keeper. And I'm like, hey, I caught one. And I go a little further.
Because at this point, it's been like 6 hours.
Yes.
Without a keeper bite.
Yeah.
Without a bite.
And then I come up to this like lay down that's there, and I pitch my square bill up there, and I come down the side of it, nothing. I pitch down the other side, nothing. I pitch this thing like 5-6 times, and like the 5th or 6th cast, crack, I catch one, 2-pounder. And I'm like, hey, I got 3. And I look at the clock, and I've got 2 hours left to fish, and I only need 2 fish. Like, I think I can get this done. Now, this is when I make some more bad decisions. I'd caught those 2 fish. My coingler catches a nice one just after I caught that one. He catches like a 3, dude. on a brush hog, that same baby brush hog that I had him tie on that morning. So now he's got 3 because he caught 2 in that backwater. So he's got a good bag going. He's got like 6 pounds.
He's loving life.
He's loving life. And he didn't catch a fish the day before, so he is pumped.
Cash a check.
Yeah, he fished with the Castledine day 1.
He cashed a check, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, he had
6
to.
pounds had to cash a check.
Yeah, that's cashing a check. So, I decide instead of pulling up my trolling motor and running a new section, which is what I should have done, I decide, man, that was a pretty long section. Let's go back down it. So I go back down it, no bites. And then I decide to turn around and go back down it again. And I'll be honest, at this point, that long practice is adding up on me. My back is hurting just from standing fishing for so long. The heat has been incredible down there. I mean, guys, I can't even explain the humidity and the heat. I heard you talking with Keith yesterday about how much water you drink, and it is true. I'm just drained, and my brain is not functioning. If I wish I could have those 2 hours right now with the way I feel right now. Dude, I'll catch 2 keepers.
You need a supplement sponsor, Brad.
I just ran out of gas. I mean, I just didn't have anything left in the tank. And when I look back at my performance of the last 2 hours, I wasn't clawing hard enough because 2 more fish put me in the top 10 cut.
Possibly 1 more.
Yep, possibly 1.
And you just never got another bite.
And I never got another bite. And I just went up and down that same stretch.
I saw you come in at I had just weighed in my massive 2 pounds, 8 ounces on day 2 and saw you, and I thought you'd had 1. And I look in your bag and you got 3, and that was massive.
Yeah.
That was massive. I mean, if you look at your standings this year, you're nickel and diming them to death. 14th place is your highest finish. You've cashed 2 checks the entire year. 57th, 56th, 96th, 14th, 68th, 56th, and 26th.
Yeah.
Every single tournament this year, you have had a pivotal fish that was the difference between 100th and 60th. Because when you have 220 boats and then the fisheries we've been to, I was looking at this the other day. Great decisions in Florida. Tough bite, canal fish, Ned rig. Get out of here.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
And at the time you were pissed, but you look at it now, 57th. Cherokee Lake, 56th.
Yep.
Grind for you. Not a great practice. Found a little secret, something that you went with that reminded you of home and ran that pattern to the dirt. While a lot of guys that finished caught tons of fish.
Right.
James River in Virginia, completely underestimated an area.
Best practice of the year.
Best practice of the year. Yep. But didn't you have a big one of the days?
Yeah. Had a 4-pounder all the way, sit down, had her come. I mean, I was sitting down to pick her up, and she just comes unpopped on a square bill.
Right. But still, 96th place finish there. That would have been different. Ross Barnett, incredible decision-making on day 2 to stick with those shallow mats that everyone had overlooked in a section of the lake that a lot of people thought was dead.
Yeah.
Oneida, business decision at Oneida. Did not really... you found the bite, but it died.
Yep.
And you went and sat in front of the ramp.
Yep.
Brilliant decision there.
Yep.
I mean, you sacrificed the potential for a $3,000 check, but you saved it from the hundreds.
Correct.
Chesapeake Bay, massive grind fest, nothing working. You anticipated what you were going to be able to do there. It didn't work. Stayed close to the ramp, grinded out of 56th.
Yep.
And then here, Red River, starting spot doesn't work. Secondary spot blown out. Come back, add 2 to the freaking box on the last day, 26th.
Yep.
Like, you're living on the edge in every single one, so you've made some really good decisions in almost all of them because it's not like you're, way up there and these fish aren't mattering. You're talking 20, 30 points every single event for key decisions.
Yeah. And it's a big difference. I mean, we both know that those 100th place finishes take you out of this thing instantly.
Yeah.
You can't have them.
Yeah, I've had a solid year, but I have 102nd and 126. And if you add a 60 with it and you give me another 120 points, now I'm only 80 points out. Mm-hmm. But it's just those 200s.
I'm just grinding. But, I think anybody that you talk to that does well in the points at any point in the season, that any of the trails that I fished, they talk about how things kind of went their way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many tournaments that are down to one fish. And, looking back even years, and it's like, man, just one here, one there are big difference makers.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll quickly recap how things went for me this week on the Red River. I'm also going to address some of the people who think it's time for me to give up the dink and dunk. They think I'm spinning rodding too much. They think it's a death sentence for me, that there's no way I'll ever be able to catch them if I rely on a spinning rod as much. And all I have to say is, boy, it really is a what have you done for me lately, because we'll get into that when we get back. BTL on a Tuesday with Bradley Hallman breaking down the Red River Open. We'll be back with the final segment right after this. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at DenaliRods.com. Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at BigBiteBaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. Really good breakdown, Brad, of how your tournament went, and I think the listeners and viewers really like listening to the tournament breakdown from you, because it's a raw kind of a litmus test, because you're trying to make the best decisions, and post you don't have to hold anything back, and I think you learn the most from hindsight.
Yeah.
And especially when you work with other guys and you kind of know what goes on. I get asked a lot by people, well, how do I become a better tournament angler as far as tournament decisions? And I'm not saying that I make great decisions, but I know I make a living talking about fishing, right? For a living. I know a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people before, during, and after every tournament. And I know what's really helped me and progressed my education and decision making is taking my decisions, but then knowing what other people did, the decisions they made, why they made those decisions. Honest people who are telling the truth, people you trust, people who are good anglers, and trying to get into their head and figure out how they made either good or bad decisions. And I think you can then take there's themes, right? As far as staying around fishing confidence stuff, sections of the lake, how you wish you would have done better. So when these people say, well, how do I become a better tournament angler? I said, here would be my suggestion. Instead of jumping in bigger tournaments right off the bat, I don't think you learn much if you're inexperienced and you jump in an Open or a Toyota Series. I think if you take a local club tournament, a BFL, a Bass Nation event, something small like that, even a team event, but you have 2 or 3 other guys that are fishing as boaters, you're all putting in the same effort, you're all doing your homework, you're practicing, anglers that you trust that are quality anglers, and then you're honest with each other after the event is over. I think that's where most of the learning takes place.
Yeah.
I think that's where most of the growing as an angler takes place. And you can learn. It doesn't matter whether your friend zeroed or whether you zeroed or whether you won the tournament. I think the experience that each person goes through in making those decisions is equally as important. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. We've done that for years and years and years with a lot of the guys that I've traveled with. Lots of conversations on the way home, and it is very hindsight 2020 for everyone, and that's generally how it works. But yes, it is the big, huge learning experience. I mean, that is how you learn.
All right, so I came down to the Red River, kind of out of it in the points, really looking forward to Hartwell. I knew what the Red River could do for equipment. I wanted to make sure my electronics were in great shape for Hartwell. In all honesty, I didn't want to spend extra money.
Yeah.
On something that was not my strong suit. So my game plan was stay by the ramp, fish close to the ramp, and really grind it out. I was using bait casters when I did it, also a little bit of spinning rod stuff, but it didn't feel right. So it didn't look right. It didn't look great, but I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So I put my head down, and this is on me. This is a learning experience on me. I knew there was that weird Cooter's Pond deal, but I also thought that it didn't exist anymore. I thought it was a thing of the past, but that it was now public. And then I look, and there's like this weird little pond thing in the backwater. I said, it must be Cooter's Pond. That's where the off limits is. So I go to the right and I start fishing. And I'm like, boy, there's really not many people back here. There's a couple boats right up there by the ramp. And then I just work my way back, and I said, and I get a bite, second cast, 13-incher. I said, all right. And I get another bite. I said, well, I'm going to work this entire shore. It's probably about a half mile, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Dude, I flip wood for a half mile. I spend 6 hours back in there. I flip every single piece.
That thing's probably over a mile.
I figure out where it is. There's some with deeper spots. I'm shaking. I end up shaking like 5 fish off, and I catch 3. And I've got all the waypoints, and everything's good. Well, I had come in on a Monday night. That was my game plan. I don't really care what else exists on the Red River. I think I can do well. I think there's a chance I can top 10 out of this, because every tournament historically there's a top 10 right by the ramp. There were this time. It's just a little bit further out. And I always put my feet like this, and then drunk wood, and a couple guys are foot shaming me now. I don't care. So I get back, and I was rooming with John, and you guys have been there for days. You've been there for 3 months, not by your own volition, but I kind of talked a little bit about what was going on, but I didn't really feel comfortable talking about what was going on, because you guys have been there for so much longer and put in more of the time. Like John threw me some bones, like, hey, you need to move your frog faster. I think they're up. They're not on a punching deal, that type of stuff. And he goes, dude, I told him, I said, yeah, I got some bites. I stayed close to the ramp. And he goes, I don't mean to alarm you, but I believe all of that is considered Cooter's Pond and off limits. I'm like, nah, no way. And he's like, yeah, I read it. And he's like, well, I said, oh my God. I said, every single bite that I had on Monday, I spent 10 hours sweating my butt off, drinking gallons of water, marking waypoints, figuring all this stuff out, wondering why there's not many other guys back there. There's like 1 or 2 guys that came back. It's all off limits. I had to call Hank and ask him, and he's like, yeah, it's off limits. There's tons of guys where they've had it. I said, so it's
hard to see now.
Dude, I only came to practice 2.5 days. My entire first day, gone, done, because I'm an idiot, and I didn't look at the line where it went. I misinterpreted where I thought it was based on what I had heard and done. Completely on me. Every single cast I made, with the exception of the first 10 casts of the morning, was in an off-limits area.
That is extremely frustrating. Like, I knew when I heard what you'd done that you were having to come apart.
I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Well, the rest of that place looks like trash in there.
Yeah, it does.
It
doesn't look like the other side.
The moss is like scummy. All the wood has slime on it. The water is a weird tannic brown color. Yeah. Doesn't look good.
No.
So I'm like starting over. Now I've got a day and a half of practice.
Right.
So, I'm kind of freaking out. And John goes, well, you could go down to pool 4. It's always one out of pool 4. And I had heard of, Sullivan's and the jungle down there.
Right.
Like, I relied on a lot of guys in this deal so I go down and he goes, well, go in the jungle, see what you can find. And then go into Sullivan. So I go in the jungle, completely overwhelmed. Like, just it's
big.
Big. No pads, no other grass, tons of floating hyacinth mats. I stay in there for 4 hours and get 1 bite. So then I went back in another pond, no bites. Now I'm in pool 4. And then I talked to Andrew, and Andrew's like, well, I'm not going down to pool 4, but there's one area, Sullivan's, that you can typically get bit in. So okay, so he gives it to me. So I run into there. Once again, it's not like, hey, here's where to fish in Sullivan's. It's like, here is a 2-mile area, and somewhere in here is a population of fish. You've got wood, you've got duck blinds, laydowns, clay points, hyacinth, creek, like you've got everything in there. So I fish around for 2 hours, no bites, and I get 3 bites, dunk, out of a mat that's 20 yards long. Jack the first one, 2-pounder, shake the next 2 off.
Wow.
So I call Andrew, and I'm like, I don't mean to jack you up, but you kind of told me to come in this area. Got 3 bites in here. He's like, cool, still not going there. Have fun. So I leave and go back. What?
That's got to make you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to lock. I wasn't planning on going more than 50 yards. Now I'm going to come down. So I take my hook off, put a hitchhiker on. I'm flipping a BFE. I said, well, I'm going to go through this area, fish 100 yards around it, punch every single hyacinth, and see how many I can shake off. Dude, I never get another bite in 2 hours. Yeah. Not a single bite. Yeah. So now that's out the window. Well, now Tuesday's over with. So now I've got a half day. I'm not going back to pool 4. Everything was spread out. I didn't get a bite where I thought. I fished off limits on day 1. I've got a half a day. So then I was talking a little bit with the Birdman, Kurt Dove. And he said, oh, there's this area called White House. And he said, but it's massive. And he was kind of in my same boat. He'd spent a lot of time at a pool and hadn't gotten bit. And he goes, I got a couple bites on one side. So I'm looking at it on Google Earth at night. And I said, did you go in this side? He said, I didn't. I said, well, you want to team up and you can go to some other backwaters and I'll go to this backwater and I'll let you know because it sounds perfect. I'm being completely transparent on how this all went down. So then I know I need to look for pads because John has said, hey, there's a pad bite. Andrew asked, are there pads in Sullivan's? You had mentioned they seem to be around the pad. Well, I have not seen a single pad in 2 days. So my mind is going, listen, I know.
That's not historically normal, by the way.
I got to find some pads. So I'm on Google Earth that night, and I know I'm going to go into this area of White House. And on Google Earth, there's some pads in there. But everything on Google Earth from the jungle and all that, completely opposite, different. Does not. But if there's pads there, I'm like, there's got to be some pads there. So I asked John, and John wasn't thrilled that I asked him if there were pads back there. He said yes. He said this whole thing is pads. And then he moved on. He goes, but there's really good hyacinth over here. I'm telling you, this is full transparency. But I also didn't want to get in his way or anything. But I also knew it looked huge on there. I said, is it big? He goes, yeah, it's big. He goes, but these hyacinth are right up against the bank. They're 6 foot of water. If I were you, this whole area over here. Well, he didn't know, but that was the whole area that Dove had fished and had been like, dude, it looks really good. I didn't get many bites in there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to go in there. I got nothing. So I go out on Wednesday. I go in there. Boosh, boosh, boosh. And I call Dove, and I'm like, yeah, they're on the left-hand side. Cool. Did not see anyone else in there. Then I talked to you, and it was obvious. I was like, yeah, I got some bites. And I have verbal diarrhea when it comes to saying where I'm fishing. I just blurted out. That's my bad. That's bad on me.
You didn't tell me where you were. You didn't. But you told me that the style of fishing you were doing, and what had happened to you? And I was like, yep, I bet you I know where he's at.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't think my head was
But
spinning.
now you got to realize I had fished that entire freaking pool 5.
Bobby's saying my head was spinning for too much info. It was not. I did not have too much info. I didn't have any info down there. I just, when I talk about these areas, it's not like spots or anything. They're very well-known community hole areas since the Red River opened. Correct, Brad?
Say that again.
The jungle, Sullivan's, the ramp.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not like too much info.
No, I mean, that's just basically the areas that they come from.
Yeah,
It's the,
anyway,
the
so that's what I
backwater
checked and I didn't. So I decided I'm going back in there. Go back in there. Day one, first thing I see, bright green console. Well, son of a gun, Andrew's back in here.
Yeah.
Right on the juice, on the side I wanted to, 4 other boats. So I stopped short. Co-angler catches 1 right off the hopper. I'm like, cool, good for him. So I work down the side that I didn't get any bites, and you get back in there and you see how, one of the guys leaves. He's already jacked him. Andrew's back there. He's on the right. I go to the left. I catch a couple. Then Andrew comes over. He's like, hey, man, I was catching him out of here. I was like, well, my bites in practice were over where you are now. So now we've kind of established a rough boundary. Like I didn't go into the right on his side. He didn't come on the left on my side. He catches 4. I catch. Then you come in. Now I'm like, crap. Now there's all.
I didn't come in until probably 11.
11. Yeah, that's what I said. But I mean, I'm milled about there. My co-angler had 3 for 712. He got 3 bites. I lost some fish on a horny toad. Andrew caught him. You come in there. Then you're in there. Then I turn around and John's coming back in there. So at one point on day one,
I never saw John back
Andrew and John were all in there.
I never saw John.
He was in there when you were in there.
All the way to the back?
No, he didn't go all the way to the back. He came out. You know that side that kind of went.
Yeah, I saw
on
him.
the right hand side. There was like a little clear spot.
I caught one right behind him at the end of the day. The schooling fish. I saw him out there.
So I knew the place was destroyed. I'd had 12 or 13 blowups. Just luck of the. I'm not super great at frogging, right? Not my forte. Andrew thought I was maybe setting the hook a little too early. I thought I was waiting. I think it was just sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. What?
Nothing.
What are you laughing about? Do you think I was setting the hook too early?
I have no idea. I wasn't watching.
Did he say I was setting the hook too early?
No, he never said a word. I'm just laughing at you thinking of yourself talking about frog fishing. That's all.
No, I've never weighed in a fish on a hollow-bodied frog in a tournament. I've caught them on it. I've never weighed one in a tournament. That's how little I throw it. And I was throwing that big bite buzz frog.
Yeah.
But they would come up through those holes, and there wasn't much time for them to get it. Anyway, I went like 7 for 13. I had 8 pounds weighed in. Well, I had to go back. I didn't have anything else. Literally had nothing else. Went back, same thing. Stuff was chopped up. Had 3 good ones eat it. Yeah. The fish weren't committed to it. I didn't have a chance on getting any of them. Andrew wasn't catching them. That other dude wasn't catching them. You weren't catching them. No one. Tompkins wasn't catching. No one back there was catching them.
No one was catching them.
No. A couple guys that were there didn't even come back on day 2. So
they were the smart ones.
Yeah. So my co-angler catches like a 1.5-pounder, reeling in a bait to make another cast. I had a 75-year-old co-angler that acted like he was like 40. It was crazy. He was like
awesome.
Bionic man. He was unbelievable.
That's awesome.
And then I said, well, maybe they got under the mat. So I started punching the hyacinth. We double up on punch bites. Mine's a 7-incher. His is a 1.5-pounder. And I was from me to you from Nick LeBrun when it happened. And Nick goes, well, that's my cue. And he packs up his stuff and leaves. And he's got one. And I'm like, no one else is catching them. And then you were spun out and you left. And I was like, yeah, I'm out too. So
dude, I had a point where I was literally idling donuts out there. I was so like torn about going back up. Or did you see that? Did you notice that I was like idling back and forth?
Yeah, well, you came over and talked to me, and I said it's trash.
Yeah.
And then you went over and talked to Dove, and Dove's like, you're in the middle of a dead zone. And then you went into the back.
Yeah.
And then you just left.
Yeah. Yeah. It was terrible. Dove, you're in the middle of a dead zone.
That's what he said.
He screamed it. You're in the middle of a dead zone. As he continues to fish.
So I was like, dude, these are really good guys who know what's up, and the water looked different, and everything looked totally different.
It did.
So this is, like I said, this is full transparency on how this happened. So I run out, and I run into Tompkins, who won the Chesapeake Bay event.
Yeah, Timmy Jr.
This is how bad this is. And he goes, man, I should just go on the main river and try to catch spots because I just need that for a limit. And I said, say that again? He said, I should go on the main river and try to catch spots. I said, there's spotted bass on the Red River. And he goes, yeah. And I said, like 12-inch spotted bass on the main river that you can catch. He's like, yeah, you can go out and catch them on a drop shot. And I said, really? Spotted bass, drop shot.
This is in the tournament?
This is at noon. And I said, all right, see ya. So I tell my guy, I said, we're going to go on the main river and drop shot for spotted bass. I didn't know there were spotted bass in the river. Tompkins said there's spots. So I go out of the deal. I go straight across, and there's rock jetty there, and it drops us 20 foot deep, and I rig up my little drop shot, and my co-angler already had one on, and he casts out behind the boat. Like second cast catches a 1.5 pound spot.
That guy's on fire.
He's got a limit now. And I'm like, holy cow. Well, fine. I'll have 6 pounds of spots, take my $3,000 and go home. Then I catch a short. I catch another short. Then I catch a 40-pound buffalo. Now I've got half an hour left. I hit every single wing dam and rock
and you
stuff
have
on
no
the way
fish
back.
in the
And
boat.
I have 0 fish.
And your co-angler has 3.
Yeah.
Now, see, you're fighting. You're fighting the last 2 hours. I'm not fighting
so
at this point.
This is crazy how many guys I talk to. So I roll up on another little opening. And it's like 10 feet across. Well, this boat, whoa, shuts down on the other side of the opening, like 20 feet from me.
Yeah.
And it's Coop. Okay. Coop Gallant.
Yeah.
Freaking out. Doesn't he? He's got like 2.5, 3 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry, dude. I caught a keeper at this opening. I have to have something or else I'm totally screwed. And I'm like, it's all good. I said, I don't even have anything. And he's like, I hate this place. I said, not more than me. So he goes, this is another thing. He goes, man, I should be right back at the ramp, catch a release fish, but I can't bring myself to do it. And I said, why? He goes, well, when I was coming in, I watched him dump them right outside. I said, on the main river? He goes, yeah, on the main river. I said, you're not there? And he goes, no, I'm an idiot. And I said, yeah, you're an idiot. I pulled the trolling motor up.
Said you could have this one.
And said, you could have this one. So I drive straight to the launch ramp. And I've got like 10 minutes left, right?
Yeah.
So I get up there and it's like a parking lot.
It was.
And I sat down and a boat's pulling its trolling motor up right on that jetty right outside. And I ease in. I've got 20 yards on either side. I got a dude coming up on me and I got another guy from Oklahoma there. So I talked to him. He's like, no, I don't have anything. And the other dude was Randy Sullivan. And Randy comes up and he doesn't have a co and he's flipping. Well, Randy was back in White House the first day. His co had a big bag. He had 9 something.
Yeah.
I said, missed you this morning. He said, I ain't going back in there. I said, you got him? He goes, I got a limit. He goes, but it's the most boring day ever. And I said, please don't tell me you sat right here all day. He goes, right here. And points his finger down.
Yep.
Well, Randy finished in the top 10.
A bunch of them did.
So I've got 5 minutes before I have to go in, pull a crankbait out, catch a fish.
This is
keeper.
So incredible. With 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got one. Put it in the box, make another cast, catch a short. Come upon a piece of wood, crank, nothing, pick up a wacky worm, catch another keeper.
Wow.
Now I've caught 2 keepers in 3 minutes. Flip back in, catch a short. Time to go. So I go in the last 3 minutes of fishing, I catch 2 keepers for 2.8, which finished me up to 73rd place, and that was my whole Red River experience.
I had 2 hours and couldn't catch 2. I would have killed for that last 5-minute flurry.
Okay, now here's my rant on the dink and dunk, BMR squared, spoken hub, spinning rod deal.
All right.
People have such short freaking memories, Brad. It's driving me nuts. I'm going to rant a little bit on this. Last year, I finished 6th in the overall points. The year before, I went into Louisville, and a top 20 put me on the Bassmaster Elite Series. And the year before that, I made the FLW Tour and finished 3rd in the championship.
Yes.
All of this primarily
dink and dunk.
Dink and dunk. In big fields doing it. This year, it's like I fished 7 tournaments. I'm 23rd in the points, and everyone's saying, oh, well, it's because you're throwing a spinning rod. You're not power fishing. It's not going to ever work on that. People have such short memories. It absolutely works. My execution has been crap this year. It hasn't been my decision making. I've been around fish. I have had 3 of my 7 top 10 co-anglers in the top 10 in the standings.
Yeah. You have had
two of them.
You have had some
Guess what?
Wreck them this year.
2 of them were dinking and dunking while I was power fishing, Brad.
Yeah.
I have primarily power fished this year. Power fish, Red River until the last 5 minutes where I caught 2. Chesapeake Bay, power fish. I did throw a drop shot a lot there. Oneida, drop shot. Ross Barnett, power fish where I lost all those fish. James, power fish. Cherokee, jerkbait and a swim bait. And Kissimmee chain, punching 60-pound braid and flipping mats. Like I have power fish this year, a portion or majority of every single tournament. And I think that's why I'm not in contention, because my limit streak is not up there. Look, that's why I read off your finishes. I'm the same way. I just have not weighed in a limit as much as you have. The dink and dunk is still alive. It is still very viable.
I agree. I think it is too. It's your deal too. I mean, it's where your confidence is, and that will never change. Mine is, flipping, frogging, spinner baiting. It's just where I find myself over and over and over. But, dude, it's what you look for. It's what you search for. It's what gets you excited. When Tompkins says, dude, there's Kentucky's spotted bass out there on the river, you're like, hey.
But it ticks me off when I see these comments of everyone going, well, it's because all you do is finesse fish. All you do is look for small limits. No, I think in order to succeed at this, A, you have to have a game plan. You can't just go out and fish. And B, you have to be better at something and have the utmost confidence in something, regardless of what it is. You talk to the best guys in the world, and they would rather fish a B pattern that is their utmost confidence
100%.
Than fish an A pattern with something that they're not comfortable with.
100%. 100%.
And in the opens, what we just talked about, what Keith has been able to do is get is target fish that are unpressured. Well, doing the traditional stuff, dude, I'm fishing around the most pressured fish in the lake now, trying to power fish.
Yes.
Before, last couple years, I haven't had many guys around me because I'm finding areas that suit my strengths. I think I'm listening to the noise too much this year, Brad, instead of just putting my head down and saying screw them all.
Maybe you are. I don't know. I don't know that there's an answer. I mean, I've traveled with you all year long. Do you feel like you've listened to too much noise around the house?
No, not just too much of what I'm supposed to be doing. I have used my forward-facing sonar a lot. Gary saying that I'm living and dying by it. Absolutely not. The only one that I primarily used that on was Oneida.
Yeah.
I used it a little bit in Florida on forward-facing sonar, but if you go through it, did not use it very much in Florida. Did not use it very much in Cherokee. In fact, I turned it off at Cherokee because I was not fishing areas where I got a bite and was shocked and was like, I never saw that on my forward-facing sonar. And then I got another one, and all I saw was this fish streaking up off the bottom. Wow. And I went, oh my gosh, these fish are on the bottom and I can't see them. And I've been ripping through these areas, not realizing that these fish are in the rocks on the bottom and they're coming up for it. That's why I missed the Coupe Gallant and the Demiki thing, because those fish were on the bottom, and he said when you'd hook one, you'd see them come up. I just wouldn't fish them because of it. So I didn't use it a lot on Cherokee. James River, I didn't use it at all on the James River. I used it a little bit on Ross Barnett in the marina, but very minimally on Ross Barnett. I did use it on Oneida. I used it too much on Oneida. Did not use it on the Chesapeake. The only way I used it on the Chesapeake was to find the hard spot on the bottom where I was casting to, and then I turned it off after that. And then obviously did not use it on the Red River.
And you wish you were using it more.
No. I'm just, some people are saying on this feedback that they think I'm relying on it too much, which is why I'm not catching them on it.
It is one of your strengths. I mean, you do like it. And it goes with your bait choices.
I like it. I'm not like ripping on anybody. Like, that's part of the deal. We're with a show where we're public figures that are saying what we're doing and how we're doing it. I like the feedback. Hopefully you guys are learning from the decisions and stuff that we make. And I'm not complaining with it, but I'm obviously trying to figure out.
You're extremely analytical, just like John is. And you guys just study the hell out of what you've done, what your results are. And it's just so different than me. I don't analytically look back at things like that. I just know where I could grind a little harder, and confidence baits, like you said, for me personally, using things that I'm confident doing, even though it's a B, C, and sometimes even a D pattern, I know I can do better with that than I can chasing something that's just not in my wheelhouse. Especially when you get on bodies of water that you're not very familiar with.
Yeah. Red Ballard said he was in White House and ended up 11th. He stayed all day the second day, and they bit for 20 minutes at 1 o'clock as we were idling out.
Really? Well done, sir. Well done. Well done.
So anyway, I'm looking forward to. I know you got a busy schedule. We got a lot going on this week as we get ready for Hartwell, but I have no excuses at Hartwell. It's my wheelhouse. It's mixed species. It's largemouth. It's spotted bass. It's forward-facing sonar. It's gut feelings. It's developing a pattern, hitting lots of spots, executing, targeting spotted bass, clear water, dink and dunk, Bridges Marina riprap, spoken hub theory to a T. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite lakes in the country.
Very nice.
I've spent a lot of time on it in the Bass Nation Championship 5 years ago. I went up for 2 straight weeks, stayed in a Microtel hotel, did not realize that the name Microtel meant that the rooms were micro. Opened the door and went, what the heck is this? Then stayed there for 2 weeks and then fished the Nation, finished 9th, I think, 9th or 10th in that tournament, was 3rd after day 1.
Wow.
It's what I have been looking for. It's one of the reasons why I've decided to fish all of them this year still, even though I've been out of the points.
I'm excited to go as well. The one thing that I know is that it's a blueback herring lake, and anytime they say bluebacks, I'm in. I enjoy chasing them. It took me a long time to even learn how to spell blueback when I first started fishing, but dude, I love those things. I love them.
And then Rayburn.
And then we go to Texas.
A lot of things will change in the next 3-4 weeks here, points-wise.
One bad day. I just hope I can hang on, dude.
I know, but also one good day. Listen, I want to say this. I also had the best co-angler in the world both days. I've had great co-anglers, even as they've
had 2 really good ones
whipped
too.
my butt. They've done it the right way.
Yep.
My guy who had the 9 pounds for 2, like I said, he apologized. And I said, don't ever apologize for what you just did. I said, I was done with that. I was behind me. I fished it 3 times. I said, you fair and square outfished me on that.
Yep. High five them all the way to the stage.
And that was the same thing with my day 1 co-angler.
Yep.
He stayed behind me. He came in. He gave me the gas money. And, me and you had a conversation. You'd had a conversation. Did we have it on air? About the co-anglers when you're hung up on the stump who keep fishing and they're like, hey, it's your problem. I'm going to keep fishing while I'm getting hung up on the stumps. And how if you're stuck or not fishing, your co-angler needs to put his damn rod down and help you get unstuck.
Well, it wasn't me. You didn't have this conversation with me. I don't mind if they keep fishing, but man, I just don't think that that they notice. They're back there in their own.
Well, this guy noticed on day 1 because he
usually
sat down.
Usually, you just need them to move, like come to the front.
So every time I got hung up, he would notice where the stump was, and then he'd be like right up next to me on the front deck. And we get unhung, and he'd be back. I never had to say anything.
Right.
He put his rod down. He wouldn't fish when we were hung up.
Right.
He caught his first fish, and he came up, and he shows me the bait in his hand because there's a bunch of boats around and whispers. He catches his second fish. He tells me exactly where it went from. He said, oh, I got 2. I need to, dude, the guy had like meticulous notes. He also had his life together. He was a financial advisor, and he was my age, which made me really feel bad about myself. His third fish, he had 2 3-pounders, was way out of the back of the boat on the frog. Didn't even say anything. He said, here's the frog. Here's how I was working it. He goes, I think I'm going to take a break now, let you get caught up. Every time I caught one or when I missed one, he'd say, hey, I need you to think 20 positive thoughts, verbalize some positive thoughts. He goes, doesn't matter. He goes, that's in the past. The most important fish is the next bite. He goes, that's the next thing you can do. Learn from the past, move forward to the next bite. I caught one. See, you're back on track. I'd miss one. Positive thoughts, positive thoughts. Yeah. Then he goes, then he misses one, and I don't have a limit. And I look at him, and he goes, go, 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 go. And I cast it there, and I caught it.
Wow.
I mean,
no, I get it.
He was good, dude.
Yeah.
He was really good. He ended up finishing second. He caught a 4-pounder. He ended up getting big bass and second in that tournament.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and he earned it, man. I really liked him. And like I said, my second day guy was phenomenal as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had
both guys beat me. I've been, not weight-wise on the first day, but he had 3 for 7-12. I had 5 for 8-2, and he called a couple.
That's a tough gig in the back of the boat, man. That's not easy to catch fish back there, especially places we've just gone to the last 2. I mean, that's a grind. You think it's a grind in the front, dude. It's really a grind back there in the back. Really a grind. But, yeah.
All right. What else we got?
I have nothing. I'm ready to go to South Carolina.
All right.
My wife and I, today, 25 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. I thought you were going to announce number 5 on the way.
No. 4 children, not 5. Oh, I hope. No. Yeah, 25 years ago today.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man.
Well, you should give her
oh, she's got a very nice gift
A
coming.
gift of the Elite Series qualification.
Oh, Lord, help us. Please.
All right, tomorrow, Joe Pogger, MLF, talking about all the schedules. We're going to untangle that spaghetti bowl of high school, college, Toyotas, BFLs.
They've got it.
MLF invitationals and the BPTs, where it all stands, the new stuff. I already said them. There's some stuff guys are ticked off about in pretty much all the divisions. We'll knock all those things down. We'll just continue with the week of asking borderline questions, I guess. And then Frank Scalish on Thursday. So this
Uncle Frank.
Thanks for jumping in, Bradley. Another great show.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully I wasn't too long-winded in that last segment.
No, you were great, dude. I wanted to hear the whole story. We hadn't got to talk about it. You never called me. Of all the people that you called and talked to.
I leave you alone, man. I just don't get a vibe sometimes. When you've got the hood up especially, or you don't have a limit, I take the cue.
I get it.
Well, we can talk at Hartwell. A lot on the line at Hartwell. All right, this has been another edition of BTL on a Tuesday with Brad Hallman in studio, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.